Hey, welcome. My name is Lindsey, and today I'm going to be setting up my bullet journal for 2023. I'm setting up my bullet journal in a passport size traveler's notebook. This is the size I used last year, and I've absolutely fallen in love with it. I've got a handful of things in front of me. I've got a couple inserts. This is the monthly insert from Traveler's Company that I'll use for something else, but I want to use the stickers that came with that insert. But I'm going to be setting up my bullet journal in the two inserts you see in front of you. These are from Good Ink Pressions. I'll have all the details down below related to this particular insert, but it is a white Tomoe River paper insert with a 4mm grid and square corners. My bullet journal takes up two inserts in my traveler's notebook, which is something I've really come to love. What I'm going to be setting up today is what I refer as my annual book or my annual insert, and this is the part of my bullet journal that stays in the cover year round. So I'm going to have my future log in here, which is what I'm going to be setting up primarily for the next few minutes. I like to draw out monthly calendars. I'll be doing those in pencil, numbering them in pencil as well. I'll talk about the grid size here in a second, but this first insert houses any sort of long-term information, anything I want to keep with me for the entire year. So my habit trackers, collections, notes, reference information, and my future log, like I mentioned here, that I'm setting up right now. The ruler I'm using on screen is by Midori. It's a metal one. I really like it, but I found I wanted something more flexible, so I'm going to pull out my 2023 underlay or writing board. There's lots of different names for this, but it's essentially a plastic sheet. It's a little bit more flexible and easier to use as a straight edge. This is the new one for 2023 from Traveler's Company, so thought it would be fitting to pull it out of the sleeve for the 2023 setup. But yeah, in general, annual book stays in my traveler's notebook all year. And then the second insert I refer to as my quarterly book, and that is more short-term scheduling information. So I'll set up like monthly habit trackers, weekly dashboards, and really their main purpose is my daily logs. I am a huge fan of a daily log. It's how I keep track of everything. It's how I get anything done, and it's also how I memory keep and create this really cool record of my life, everything I intended to do, everything that I determined was no longer worth my time, and maybe I crossed it out along with memory keeping. I do a lot of sketching on my daily logs as well. So yeah, I run into a 2-book system. Over the course of 2022, I used a total of 5 inserts from Good Ink Pressions. I have my annual book, which stayed in my planner all year, and then 4 quarterly inserts, which worked out really well. So I'll be doing an archiving indexing video about how I archived my 2022 passport size bullet journal. So if you're curious about that, I'd recommend subscribing. That video will be coming out sometime in December of 2022. Okay, so for my future log, I'm drawing out monthly calendars. I'm a very visual person. I also have a lot of appointments that tend to fall on the same day, but I'm not that busy overall. So I like to draw out the monthly calendars. It saves me time. I don't have to draw these later throughout the year. When I get to the month, this becomes my current monthly spread. And I do all my pre-planning directly in here as well. So if I set up a doctor's appointment, I'll write it on that specific day. If it gets canceled for some reason, I strike through it. I'm not overly busy, so the strike throughs don't bother me all that much, although I will pull out a sticky note if it's something I'm really not quite sure about. My calendars are drawn in using pencil, primarily because I like how it looks, but it's also really easy to make changes if I mess something up. So if I misnumber something, it's a lot easier to erase the numbers because I'm going to write those in with the pencil as well. For my months that are 6 weeks across, I'm a Monday starter when I set these up. I do my grids with a 4x4 square per month, which leaves a pretty hefty margin, but allows me to get 6 weekly rows in pretty neatly. This insert, I think I mentioned earlier, it's a 4mm grid, so the spacing can look a little bit different if you're used to like a 5mm grid notebook setup. But for the most part, I'm drawing in 5x5 calendar weeks. 2022 setup, I did this 4x4. because I wanted a lot of white space around my calendar, but I found it was just a little bit cramped in the passport size. So I'm bumping up to 5x5 for most weeks. The other thing I'm doing is I'm writing the fiscal week numbers on the right-hand side of my calendar. Really just because I like to put the week numbers on my weekly dashboard, so it just helps me thread between my annual book to my quarterly books just a little bit easier, and we use those week numbers a lot for work as well, so it's just an easier reference for me. So I'm doing myself a favor, not something that I did last year, new for next year. Glad I'm adding it. I am drawing out all 12 monthly calendars, so I'm starting with January. I just set up a Hobonichi Weeks, and I move into a Hobonichi Weeks in December, so my brain is like 2023 starts in December, but no, this I'm actually doing true to the calendar year, which I've not done in a while because I've been a Hobonichi planner user for a few years now, and I typically will move in December, which is when those planners start, but this will start in January, which is kind of nice to not have to move into something right away. I think it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes I want to move into a new planner ASAP, but I've been so overwhelmed with all the choices this year that when it came to setting up my bullet journal, I was like, nope, we're going with the January start so that I've got plenty of time to get comfortable with it and make my decisions, and I'll move in January 1. Plus, inserts are really easy to travel with, so I'll just pop these 2 inserts in, flip them over in the beginning of the year, and won't be that much extra weight when I'm packing to go home for New Year's. But yeah, what I mentioned, or what I was getting at, is I draw out January through December monthlies. I don't bother to write the month on the spread at this point because I tend to do some sort of like decorating hand lettering when I get to the current month, but I will put in like everyone's birthdays off camera, and that's sort of my quick at a glance between that and the shape to see which month it is. It's what I did this year and I didn't have an issue, so I'll continue it for next year. Okay, so moving on to my next spread, I always leave myself a page for Future Plus, and this is my designated spot to write down any event that gets scheduled beyond December of 2023. That way I don't lose it, and it's easy to reference when I set up next year's bullet journal. And the spread on the right is going to be my cycle tracker. I am using a printable. This is from PeanutsPlannerCo. It is a pocket-sized insert, and the number is 104, which is her undated yearly bundle. And I print this out on sticker paper. I'm trying to line it up so the edges are along the outside edge of the paper, because I find flipping pages to be a little bit easier versus if I bump the page closer to the center binding. There's a little bit of paper border around the sticker. It's a little bit harder to flip pages. It's hard to explain, but I wanted to mention it because it's something that I'm doing a little bit different this year after learning my lesson. Next thing I'm setting up is another habit tracker, and I'm making this incredibly easy on myself by again using another printable. This is also from PeanutsPlannerCo, pocket size, number 111 yearly log, and this I use to keep track of my daily workouts. I don't actually work out every day. Full disclaimer, but this is where I will write down the workout that I do, and it's got January through June on one page and July through the December on the right hand page, and I will just do either, if I can fit the whole workout like a walk 4-letter word in there, I'll do that, but otherwise it's just the first few letters of the activity that I did. Kind of panicked, set this down extremely crooked, so had to like pull it up very quickly and carefully, but thankfully I pulled the sticker up without ripping the page, and a little bit more challenging the second time around because the page curled a bit, but got the second sticker on there, and that is my workout tracker done. I am doing all of my headings with fountain pen. This is the Kaweco Sport Brass Edition in extra fine. It is inked with the Atramentis document ink in the color blue-gray, which is the same pen I used in my Hobonichi Week setup. That video came out right before this one, so if you saw that, I think you're going to notice that what I'm setting up is almost identical. And that's because I plan on using the two planners interchangeably. I have a strong feeling my bullet journal is going to win this year. I really prefer a bullet journal over a dated planner is what I've come to realize. But yeah, my heart was torn, so I've set up both. But I used this fountain pen to title all my headers from that setup, and because I wanted my 2023 setups to be cohesive, I just brought the same color and pen weight over for my titles for this year as well. I think I missed it, but I used those same exact number 111 trackers to set up yet another habit tracker. That's where I track my weight. Take it or leave it. It works for me, may not be good for you, so I don't recommend it if you don't need it. Okay, so next couple spreads I'm setting up is I wrote measurements on the left-hand side. I haven't decided really how I want to set that up, but I do want to take some body measurements. I've got some weight loss related goals for 2023, so giving myself the spreads to do that. But the right-hand page is a pretty functional tracker for me. I refer to this as my adulting log. It is sort of a hybrid of when did I last / monthly cleaning tracker type of spread. This is set up to be an Alistair method, so I just do the first letter of the month, January through December up top, and then down below I wrote the activities. So monthly tasks would be like cleaning our mattress pad or swapping out the sponge in the kitchen. Quarterly tasks could be like cleaning out the air filter in our air conditioning unit, getting that switched out. Along with things like paying our vehicle registration, things that aren't automated, that if I can write down the date that I do it, works out a little bit better for me. So I just put down the date for the month that I do that task, and it's worked out pretty well for me. So one thing I do want to mention, because you'll see me doing this a lot, I wrote down all the spreads that I wanted to set up based off my migration prep video. I can link that video up in the cards if you would like to check that one out. But I went through last year's planners, went through my goals, decided what spreads I actually wanted to set up for the year. And then I wrote all those spreads out on these little sticky notes, and I put them in my planner, flipped through a few times to make sure I was good with the order of my spreads. But those sticky notes leave a little bit of residue, so I'm just kind of rubbing that off, and that's what you see me doing. Okay, so now I'm setting up what I refer to as my debit spread. I'm making a little check register here. It is 4 columns, date, dollar amount, description, and then sort of a slash to indicate which account. And this is how I keep track of finances that get charged to the wrong account within our household budget. Not something I think everybody needs, but a very useful spread for me. I'm going to be setting up a lot of check registers here, and it's kind of silly because I do most of my budgeting digitally. I use YNAB. If you're curious, you need a budget. But there are certain things I like to keep track on paper, and I guess these are the one. Next spread, very similar. It is going to be a check register. I split this into 5 columns. First column is going to be for the date. Second column is for a description. Third column is the transaction amount, so money in, money out. Fourth column is my balance, and then the fifth column is really, I'll just do a check for something shipped, and the second column is a check mark if something is received. So it's sort of a hybrid between a check register and a package tracker. But this is for my low buy year. I am embarking on a stationary low buy for 2023. Wish me luck. So I'm trying to stick within a budget when it comes to my journaling, craft supplies, that kind of stuff. And that's where I will be keeping track of any transactions related to my low buy. Next spread I'm setting up is my spending tracker, because my low buy really only pertains to stationery, because I desperately need to replace some things like clothing items, and I need a new computer really, really bad, that kind of stuff. So I will definitely be spending money in 2023, just not so much on planners, or at least that is the goal. So this is where I'll be keeping track of those types of things. And again, it is a hybrid between a package tracker and a check register, and that works out pretty well for me. Last check register, I promise. This is my LindseyScribbles check register, same exact setup like I mentioned before. And one of my goals this year is to open a shop. So this is where I'll keep track of money in from LindseyScribbles and money out for things like editing software, music, royalty-free music licenses, sticker paper maybe, and any kind of tools or things like that that I would need for LindseyScribbles. Okay, this is a spread, if you saw my Hobonichi week setup, that I didn't set up in there because I was afraid to do it, because I'm afraid of running out of pages in that planner, and that is not a fear I have in this bullet journal. So I am, plus 1 point for the bullet journal, but this is what I'm referring to as my Patreon deliverables. Shameless plug, I have a Patreon. I've got 2 tiers. I've got a Scribbler tier where it is essentially a content tier. I do weekly blog posts, videos, a couple exclusive videos, and usually a freebie or 2 in there. And come December, I've also set up a patron-only Discord server so that we can communicate a little bit better. So that tier gets access to all of that. And my second tier is my Doodlers tier, which then gets everything from the previous tier plus digital files of some of my artwork, so you can make your own dashboards and things like that. And I also pre-set up some digital dashboards that can be print and cut for whatever size planner that you are in. So if you'd like to support me, maybe check me out over there. I'll have the information down below. But yeah, just an Alistair check register, the things I need to do each month, so I don't get behind. All right, so no more shameless plugs. Flipping the page here, I'm setting up what I refer to as my shopping list. 3 little columns, drew those in with pencil. This is where I keep track of items that I need to pick up that aren't from my regular grocery store. So we only go to Target maybe like once a month, a place like that. This is where I'd write that down. Right-hand page is my reading log. Doing 4 columns for this. Left-hand column will be book number, or if it's a fan fiction, I'll typically write the site. The middle column is for the title and author, if I can squeeze both in. And the right 2 columns are for date started and date finished when it comes to the books. Flipping the page, I'm setting up a call log. This is really easy. It's just sort of a date, and then I write a couple notes down. Talk to my best friend once a week, and I like to write down what we talk about because I think it's fun to see all that information in one place at the end of the year. And for similar reasons, the next collection I'm setting up is my date log, and this is where I write down the date nights that my husband and I go on. So where we ate, what we did, funny quotes from a movie we watched, did we see a band, that kind of stuff. Like seeing it all in one place. It's just fun to reflect on. Next spread is my investing and taxes log, and really this is just like a glorified checklist on when I get tax documents back, so I know we can get started on our taxes for the previous year. And I write down if we do any investing in the date, just to have some peace of mind that I wrote it down somewhere. The next page is my gift list and wish list combined. I'm just doing a quick Alistair method. I'm doing a star for wish list items. B indicates it's an idea for my husband, and E indicates it's an idea for someone on my side of the family, and a W indicates it is someone on my husband's side of the family. So I'll just do a dot under which category it falls under and what the idea is on the right hand side, and then I will check them off if that idea no longer applies or we purchase that gift for someone. I'm hoping I don't have to buy too many things for myself. I'm doing a low buy, remember, so I wanted to combine my wish list in here just to use up the page. All right, so my last spread is my quarterly goals pre-planning page. I've split each page into 2, so I end up with a total of 4 quarters. I'm pulling out some sticky notes. These were from, oh gosh, why can I not remember the name? Daiso, yes, and just gonna write down what my goals are for each quarter so I can move them around and have a little bit of pre-planning. Finishing touch, flipping to the front here, I'm putting down a sticker. This is from Nutmeg Studios, Nutmeg Designs. I'll list them down below. They're very very talented artist, and I think this is a depiction of the 3 broomsticks, if I remember right. I found the sticker on her Instagram shop, and yeah, I really love them, and it's kind of fun to use the stickers that I typically hoard in my annual insert, because then I get to see it for an entire year. Last thing I'm doing is doing a pen test page on the very last page of this insert and marking out the pens that I'm currently using. So I like to see all the pens I use in my planner over an entire year. But yeah, that's my annual book for 2023. If you have made it this long, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next week.